we go. Before the press conferences even start. I mean, we could talk for 45 minutes just about how atrocious the defense is.
He's just picking the big guys. Jordan Mailata, he's huge. He'll be good later on. Josh Sweat, he's tall as hell and strong. Let's get him. We'll figure him out. It's working.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Trending in the AM right here on DSM Media. We got a great show this morning. Little different twist today because I got two very special guests. I'll introduce them in a second, but let's take care of business real quick. We are brought to you by Manscaped, the leader in men's grooming products, the GOAT, the Michael Jordan of men's grooming products. Make sure you check them out. Next week's Thanksgiving. That means the holidays are right around the corner. Get the man in your life exactly what they want. And let's be honest, they will be happy, and so will you. Use the promo code TRENDING at checkout. It gets you 20% off and free shipping. Again, manscaped.com. Don't forget about them. All right, let's dive right into the business here. I got two really special guests. We've been doing this thing on the show and all the shows on the DSM network called A Football Journey, where I've been bringing on young, aspiring football players that are playing in Europe, indoor football leagues, and try to get them exposure, but hear their story of what got them to football and why they're doing the grind. And these two guests here, we got Vince Sapienza and Alex Malchaw. They're player reps over at the Pro Level Agents, company, and they're the guys that are getting these guys these jobs and these football opportunities. So it's great to bring on some agents and some player reps here that, that experience, that experience into this this conversation. So Vince, he's on Twitter at AltFB Scout. He runs the Alternate Football Scouting Report. And Alex, he works with the AFI, the American Football International.com, and Europe'sElite.com. He writes for those two websites. Vince, Alex, welcome to DSM and welcome for Trending in the AM.
Yeah, thanks for having us on, man.
Happy to be here.
Yeah, excellent. Real quick, we'll start with Vince and Alex. Just give everybody a little bit more detailed background on who you are and like what brought you up and got you into what you're doing right now, which is you guys are both focused on the European, the other leagues right now. A lot of people don't even realize how many other football leagues there are out there other than the NFL and the USFL and stuff like that. So just give everybody a little bit of a background of who you are, Vince.
Yeah, right. So I was just an XFL fan that was missing his New York Guardians a little bit over a year ago, and the spring league was starting this 2020 fall bubble season in San Antonio. So I was home. I was unemployed. I needed something to do with my time, so I just started writing all these scouting reports on all these players, basically just trying to give everybody that was trying to watch just like, all right, this is where this guy played, this is how he did, blah, blah, blah. That turned into me doing it a little bit more with highlights and stuff too, and I kind of just started to tap into all the different leagues around the world from there because I didn't realize how deep it really went. I wasn't an arena fan. I hadn't watched any international football or anything, but there was a couple players from Japan playing in the spring league. And I was like, well, everyone else had their college names listed. And then it just said Japan. I was like, what do you mean Japan? And I started to look into it. I found AFI and started to read a bunch of articles, started to watch a couple championship games as the COVID fall seasons in Europe were coming to an end around that time. I think I watched the Swedish championship and was like, I didn't even realize this existed. And the Japanese season kicked off like a week later. I watched the entire season and switched my football account. Used to be the Spring League Scouting Report, so I switched it to the Alternate Football Scouting Report because I was ready to just dive right in on everything else. So then when Arena came back, I was all in on Arena. When all of the European leagues started coming back for their, first non-COVID season in 2021. I was all in on that as well. So it was like Austria, Italy, Spain, Poland. So yeah, that just kind of led me to where I was here because I was doing that so much. I got pretty well connected with players and teams and things like that, and just became pretty knowledgeable on the stuff. So Buddy, the owner of Pro Level, was looking for player reps, and I reached out to him, and he's like, yeah, I mean, you definitely know this stuff, so come on board. And that's how I got here.
That's awesome. Alex, a little bit about your story.
Sure. My story started as a player. So I played at Division III Denison University.
I didn't have time to research it. I know that school. Where do you know some of the teams? Like you guys, did you ever play with Widener or Drexel University? Any of those?
We would play like Kenyon or Wittenberg, those type of like Ohio.
I played at some. I think my college played your college in playoffs once, way back in the day. I'm older than you guys, so back in the late '90s, early 2000. Because I was from a really strong Division III powerhouse. If that's such a thing. So I know the name Denison. I think I booed your school very hard one year in college.
It is a thing, and Denison is not that. They're not a powerhouse.
So maybe we were just booing them in the regular season or something.
Yeah, probably not in the playoffs. So I played. I was a 5'9", 250-pound O lineman, and so I knew the NFL wasn't going to be knocking on my door. So I knew about football in Europe because of my mother is German, and I spent some time in Germany. But the first team I ended up going to was in Finland. I played there in 2017. Then I went on to play in France and Germany the next 2 years. And then I got injured a lot, so I decided to do something else besides playing. But I was home at the time, and I really wanted to stay involved with football in Europe because I missed playing so much. Mm-hmm. So one of the only leagues in the world that was happening in the summer of 2020, football-wise, was the league in Finland. Mm-hmm. So I started writing about that for AFI, and now I've been with them for over a year, writing about everything from Japan to Europe to Australia. And then, pretty recently, I asked Vince about Pro Level Agency, and he kind of gave me the scoop, and I talked with Buddy, and it seemed like a good fit. So I've been rolling with them for maybe 3-4 weeks now.
Yeah. Okay. So you're still pretty new to the Pro Level Agency. You're just like me. My partnership, it started as having Buddy on as a guest of, like a month and a half, 2 months ago. And it's just kind of in a 4 to 6 week span, blossomed into a partnership because, I've talked to you two now. I've talked to Gabe. I've talked to some of the players. I've talked to Buddy multiple times. What an awesome team and family Pro Level Agency is, guys.
Yeah, seriously. We got, even on our coaching staff too, we have a good amount of coaches on board too we just bring quality people on, whether it's players, coaches, reps, everything,
Yeah, no, it's an awesome team. All right, so let's talk European and all the international football as a whole. So obviously, like we said, a lot of people don't realize how much football is being played, overseas. Right. How would you grade the competition level of the leagues going on over there compared to what, people are used to here? The NFL obviously is heads above, but the XFLs, the Arena League, when that was still a thing, how would you grade the competition level over there to here, guys?
Alex, you want to go first?
Sure. I think it's hard to say Europe as a whole or international as a whole.
Take because like the top, what you feel are the top 3 leagues overseas and how you would compare them to over here.
Sure. I would say probably Japan and European League of Football or ELF, and maybe the German Football League. I would say they're probably around Division II level of college football. You have some really good players, and you have some players that maybe are new to playing football and are coming from soccer or handball or something like that. Exactly. So, and those guys are mixed in with someone that could be maybe was at an SEC school 2 years ago. It's growing, it's getting better every year, but there's always a disparity on the field for sure.
Do you agree with that sentiment, Vince?
Yeah, absolutely. He nailed that right on the head. There's it's not even league to leagues. It's really more of club to club, where you have teams like the Panasonic Impulse in Japan. or like the Hamburg Sea Devils, the Dresden Monarchs, even in different leagues in Germany that are, I mean, top tier across the board. They have depth. So even when guys get hurt, they have guys that can come in and fill in, but then they may have a team that they play and they win a game 50-0 in their same league, or even more. We just saw a scoreboard of 77-0 in Japan a couple weeks ago, just because that's the disparity that exists in a lot of these leagues. And I think that's really what separates them from, that's the international style of ball from even arena and XFL, USFL. You don't see a whole lot of disparity like that. Mm-hmm. Sometimes in arena, there may be one or two teams in the league that are just way, way well below everybody else. But for the most part, those leagues will have a bit more of a competitive edge. And I think that's really what differentiates international ball. Is there's some teams that are, there's still, a lot of them are club leagues. They're not pro leagues for the most part. The ELF is the first attempt at a pro league outside of the States. For homegrown talent, because they used to have the NFL Europe back in the day, as you can see. I
knew it was from. I thought that's what it was from there.
They're coming back in the ELF too. Actually, they just announced about a month or so ago, so I'm excited for that. But yeah, so a lot of what it is it's club leagues. That's like, some of these clubs have been around since the 70s or 80s, where they just had a bunch of American football fans in their town, decided to start a club, and these different clubs popped up. And then as time went on, they gained local support, started to get sponsors, make a lot more money so they could afford to bring in Americans. And since then, it has now become a whole thing where every league has, their American imports, but there are still teams and leagues of just homegrown talent, because they're good enough to beat all the other homegrown clubs so that they can compete in the top league, but they don't have the funds to bring in Americans, so they can't really compete with teams that do.
So yeah, that's what I was going to bring up. So I was going to go with one way with a question. You kind of helped me rephrase it. Then you rephrased it again for me there. So the disparity in the league. I know there's rules for all these different leagues, and I'm sure every league has slightly different tweaks on the rules. But the disparity, is it because of money? And like the teams that have the money can spend the most, and there's no cap or anything like that. Because I know some of the leagues I've talked to players from, there's like a 4 American like limit or something like that. And I'm sure there's different tweaks on those rules in different leagues. So it's just whoever has the most money can get the best talent to come over.
Probably about 50%, 75% of that, I'd say. A lot of it does come down to how good their homegrown talent is. Okay. But sometimes that is a byproduct of how much support they've had in the past for them to have a bunch of American coaches, or even Canadian coaches. We've seen a lot of Canadian coaches go over as well. So that'll be a lot of it too, where they just have a stronger coaching staff. And if you have a strong coaching staff for 10 years, from 2000 to 2010, you may now have an established homegrown coaching staff that can then bring up all of this, good talent and develop youth talent better, just because of how much more experience the club as a whole has had.
Is this so? When you're talking about developing young local talent, is it similar to like soccer in the sense where they have like their academies at home, and you see a lot of these big schools, these big programs in Europe? I mean, they're training kids at 12, 13 years old to be prepared 10 years later to play for the big clubs and stuff like that. Is it similar to that?
Yeah. No, go ahead, Alex.
Yeah, we're starting to see some things like that. Some clubs have some small academies, but I wouldn't say it's as developed as soccer. Oh, yeah. But you do see the club team will have a junior team, a under 15 team, an under 9 team typically, maybe even a women's team. And then if it's a big club, they'll have a kind of a second team and a first team, almost like a varsity and JV. And that'll be men who are either just trying to kind of have fun and keep playing, or they're new to the sport, and it kind of mixes in. So, one club could have 5 or 6 teams, at different levels.
No, that's awesome. All right. So, I mean, going forward, like right now, what leagues are going on right now?
Right now, not much. Romania, the Romanian championship is coming up, but they're down to literally just the championship now.
So I was getting at, do they try to like gear their seasons away from the NFL? Because I'm sure the NFL is still obviously probably more popular than some of these little leagues in Europe, right?
Yeah, like the spring and the summer is really where you see most of these leagues. And then right now I think Romania is playing, but I think this was just because of COVID. They pushed their season back, as I think they'll be playing in the spring again next year. Japan is like, I think, the only league that typically plays in the fall, as far as I know. And I mean, they play in the fall every year, so they're still playing right now. Their championship isn't until I think January 3rd. They do it every year or whatever. They do the Rice Bowl, which is honestly, it's crazy. 30,000 fans go to the Rice Bowl every year. Which, I mean, they go to the dome or whatever that they have in Tokyo. They play a lot of baseball games there too. And they just pack the house. It's kind of crazy to think of.
You say 30,000 people going to a game. I mean, that's a pretty significant number there. You know, what's like in these the European, the ELF, the German league, Japan. Like, what's like the general support in each town for each squad like? I mean, pretty intense, or is it still something that's slowly building up, steam, across the board there? Like, where would you put it? Similar to Division II, fan support for Division II college, or is it more than that?
I would say maybe around 1,000, 2,000 people are most at games. Typical games in the regular season, and that's going through various leagues. But for the championship, we saw a lot of support in the ELF. I think there was 25,000. At the German Bowl, there was around 20,000. So the championship games get a big attendance, but regular season game attendance is still something that needs to be improved for sure.
Yeah, it's definitely like the ELF did a really good job where, if you watch some of these other leagues, there's like 400 people there tops. Okay. And even like the GFL has really, really good support across the board, not just for their top teams. That's just a testament to how much more popular football is in Germany. Which I really think is a byproduct of NFL Europe and how many teams really were based in Germany there. It just caught on more there. So there's just a lot more of a football culture just established in the country. But, even lower tier GFL 1 teams that like weren't winning a lot of games are still able to bring like a solid 1,000 fans a game. And then, like they have the team in Poland in the ELF, the Wrocław Panthers, they were bringing 4,000 fans a game. And, there's other club teams like the Fehérvár Enthroners in Hungary. They bring like 4,000 fans a game. And this past year with COVID still kind of being an issue. There was some restrictions and there's going to be a bunch of fans that even when restrictions are lifted, they're not going to want to go because they don't feel safe. They were still packing the stands.
Yeah. So what would it take, for these leagues to be bigger? Like, is it just strictly a money thing, or is it more, teaching and getting the fan base to support them? Like, what's the bigger issue from taking these leagues to the next level? I'm not saying competing with the NFL, but maybe drawing, maybe better talent over to them, or, just getting more eyes on the product. What's the bigger thing? Teaching the local fan base to support them and understand the game, or is it just strictly money?
Say the first one for sure. I think as more fans just learn the game and realize, what's going on the field. Look, like we all grow up with football. It is a complicated sport. Trying to explain it to someone that's never watched it before, like sitting watching football with my girlfriend, trying to explain the rules to her can be a headache sometimes. It's the same. It was the same with my mother growing up. She's like, what's this mean? Why can they, and it's the same, with overseas, if you've never watched a game of football before, how are you going to explain, four downs. Okay. You have to get this far, you know what I mean? That's just so much going on at once. And there's so many different positions that have to do so many different things. Whereas, soccer's are pretty straightforward, pass the ball around, kick it into the goal. You know what I mean?
Sounds so easy.
Yeah, it's definitely still a niche sport in Europe, and maybe as the NFL grows, this will trickle down to the other leagues because the NFL has been growing, especially in Germany and UK and these other countries. But when I was playing in France, I would tell someone I'm playing American football, and they would say, "What is that, like rugby?" They didn't even know what the sport was. So it still has a long way to go.
No, you say it's growing. I mean, just look at Mexico. The leagues in Mexico are growing. The NFL keeps sending one game a year down to Mexico and stuff like that. That's you're starting to see that little trend. Maybe the NFL. I mean, I know they play the games in London. Maybe the NFL should consider, instead of always just going to London, or maybe sending another game to Germany or Japan. I know there's some logistical issues with that, especially right now. But it is definitely something that they should do, and it would absolutely probably, help draw more attention to the sport.
They actually just announced a game in Germany for 2023, I believe.
Okay, I must have missed that. Okay.
I don't think they announced the city yet. They've narrowed it down to, I want to say, what was it? Frankfurt, Dusseldorf, and Munich.
Okay.
But yeah, they've already kind of tapped in on that, so I know that
that's fantastic. Then
that game will sell out. Doesn't matter which German city they play it in, that game will sell out.
So people do pay attention to NFL football in Europe to an extent.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And a big part of what the NFL has done to kind of keep building that support is through that the International Player Pathway Program. Mm-hmm. So they've been, if you remember when the Vikings drafted a German wide receiver back in 2015, Moritz Boringer was his name. He was there for 2 years, and they had kind of been doing this NFL Undiscovered was originally the name of it. Anthony Doblé-Wolf was a French wide receiver that also made his way to the Giants through that. And that was kind of the birthplace of the IPP program, where they were like, okay, wait a minute, these guys, even though they only really got preseason reps and practice squad reps, they were still contributing. They were like, there's some serious talent out there. We should do more to get involved with it. So now they bring, I think they pick one division every year, and they give you an exempt roster spot. Mm-hmm. And the guys will spend, you can basically spend 2 years on this exempt roster spot on the practice squad. So, we saw a lot of guys leave the IPP from the 2018 class, do 2018, 2019, and then go back to Germany and play in the ELF, play in the GFL and things like that. But it's been, giving a lot more countries representation in the NFL, right? The Patriots starting fullback, Jakob Johnson, was playing tight end in the GFL for the Stuttgart Scorpions before he went through the IPP, and is now on his third year starting for the Patriots. He's been there a while now. He's a huge part of their run game. And then, you're an Eagles fan. Left tackle Jordan Maliat.
I was waiting for an opportunity because you've mentioned rugby twice, and you guys should be looking at rugby players.
Yeah,
his
story's crazy.
He never even watched a minute of NFL football.
He watched
any American football, and he got drafted in the 7th round. And he is grading out as one of the best left tackles in football. Just signed a 4-year, $80 million contract extension 3 years ago. Never played a down of football in his life. Never watched a game of football, anything. So there's some talent out there.
Exactly.
I'm surprised you guys aren't tapping into more rugby players, because if Jordan Mailata, man, when I watched his rugby highlights, and I'm going to get off on a scent, I'm a big Jordan. That's the next jersey I buy, is a Jordan Mailata jersey.
Yeah.
I love the guy. When I saw his rugby highlights, I didn't even see offensive linemen. I saw fullback and running back. I want to give him the ball, even though he's 6'8", 350 pounds. Handle the ball on 4th and goal on the 1 yard line and just let him refrigerator carry it right up the middle and stuff like that. So I'm a huge Jordan Mailata fan. I love it.
Yeah, it's funny that you do say that, though. There was, I think, Christian Wade, he's a running back for the Bills. I think he was actually from South Africa, and he was a rugby player as well. And they brought him on as a running back. And I want to say that AFC North division, they don't have to keep these guys anymore, but they've continued to bring them back.
Yeah. You see a lot of punters also from rugby and kickers from Europe and stuff like that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. We just saw former rugby player Tagged Later, I think his name is. He's from Ireland. Get his professional kicking debut in the Spring League, and then got picked up by the Roquefort Panthers in the ELF, and is now a professional kicker for football, even though his entire career was rugby before that.
Okay. So, guys, this is a moment to sell what you guys do. I got one final question. I already tipped you guys before the show about it. But if you guys had to sell, there's young players out there right now, Division 2, Division 3 colleges, or guys that just didn't make it with the NFL. what you guys got to say to sell them that there is life outside of U.S. football, and kind of like sell to them why they should continue their journey playing overseas. Alex, you want to go?
Sure. I can recommend as a player. I finished college and I still had the fire to play. All I wanted to do was put on the pads again, and I got to do that in Europe and totally do my passion and see the world and meet all types of new people and explore cultures that I never thought I would go to. I didn't even know where Finland was on the map when I signed with the team, and now I'm writing about American football in Europe. So I'm very thankful for the experience, and I hope to give it to someone else.
Vince?
Yeah, I mean, it's the level of competition is a lot higher than most people would think. They take really good care of you, and a lot of people don't really expect that either. And it's a very legitimate opportunity to start a professional career. There's been guys that have played overseas and then come back. Like Reese Horn destroyed the Italian league, destroyed the Austrian league, and then was one of the leading receivers in the AAF, was, stuck with a pretty deep receiving core in the XFL, but still cut out a solid name for himself, lit up the spring league, and then was with the Bengals this past preseason. So it's not like it's not possible to, extend your career and then eventually find that next level opportunity by playing overseas or indoors or anything like that.
If you get into if you go overseas and make a name, even if you play in the XFL, you can go from the XFL. I mean, the two big names right now, you got the Tyler Henneke and the PJ Walker starting quarterbacks in the NFL. They were nobodies, and they're playing the XFL and Arena Bowl and stuff like that, and they made their name and eventually got their shot. All you got to do is capitalize on your one shot. If you get a shot and then capitalize on it, that's all. So I mean, real quick, I didn't mean to bring this up. Money-wise for European players, I know it's different in each league and stuff like that. I know you can't say exactly how much they make and stuff like that, but is it comparable to say practice squads? It's comparable to like XFL. It's way below all that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you're looking to make money, this is not.
That question was more for me. I was just curious and stuff like that.
Yeah, no. Definitely not, but it's not. They cover a lot of your expenses, and they do pay a respectable amount, but it's not like
I'm sure they find you housing and stuff like that. And,
yeah. You're not going to be making XFL money though.
If you're with a good team, everything will be taken care of. They pick you up from the airport. Your apartment is ready. You have a bus pass or a car you're sharing with someone, and you get a monthly check. I mean, you don't have any worries.
That's good. No, I that was more my own personal. Yeah. I was just curious myself. Not that I'm trying to play. I'm 40. I'm done with any other than swinging a golf club. There ain't nothing else coming off of me athletically right now. All right, you guys are player reps. You work for an agency here, so I would be stupid not to bring up Ben Simmons. I know Alex wasn't super familiar with the situation. I know Vince is, so I'm going to bring it up real quick. I'm going to give it to you guys in a nutshell. Obviously Ben Simmons, once out of Philadelphia. He's got the most famous basketball agent there is, Rich Paul, and Clutch Sports representing him. And there's a lot of debate in Philadelphia. Who's to blame for how this problem is snowballing out of control? Whether it's Rich Paul giving Ben Simmons bad advice, Ben Simmons saying what he wants, and just Rich Paul doing whatever he's told. I don't know. Vince, you know a little bit more about the situation maybe than Alex. What are your thoughts on the situation, how it's being handled by the sports agency side of it? I mean, I know I talked to Buddy when I had him on about 6 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And he kind of deflected it away from Rich Paul and said it was probably more Ben Simmons telling Rich Paul how he wanted to handle the situation, and Rich Paul's just doing his job.
Yeah, I'd say, I'd say I'd agree with that in a sense, that as a representative, you can't make your player that you rep do something, right? At the end of the day, it's their career, it's their decision. You have to respect that. Even if you have a personal opinion against it, you can voice that concern as much as you want, but at the end of the day, you can't make somebody do something that they don't want. So whether it was something between Simmons and Embiid or Simmons and the coach from the playoffs the season before, and it just kind of snowballed into that, I feel like all three of them could have handled that better. Before
the whole group could have, yeah.
Like that's really where it started, and it snowballed from there. From an agent standpoint, I mean, if you have a player that has that that type of relationship now building with a team that they have a 4-year deal with. You have to try to get to the bottom of it, try to solve it as much as you can. But, at the end of the day, it's the player's decision, and you have to do what they want because it's their career.
Even if every decision that player is making not only is making him look bad, making you as an agent look bad as well.
Yeah, and I mean, when it starts to hurt your reputation as an agent, as a agency in general, you definitely have to voice that concern. But no matter what it is, at the end of the day, it's their life, and you can't make them do something that they don't want to do, and you have to respect that because he hired him to represent him and to give him guidance, not to make decisions for him. That's where I say.
Yeah, Alex, I know, like I said with you when we were texting back and forth, you don't know a lot about it, but I mean, I guess you could kind of get a little judgment from this conversation.
I'm filled in now. I talked to my buddy who follows the NBA very closely last night, so I got the scoop. I guess I wouldn't have sent him to practice with his phone in. I would have sent him to practice, ready to practice, maybe, because that kind of made things worse.
That was the next step in the snowball because he actually finally reported and actually showed up to practice, but then got kicked out of practice because he had his cell phone in his pocket. He wasn't really doing anything. He was just kind of standing off on the side. Yeah. And I don't know if you guys know the Philadelphia sports media. They're there on every little detail, and they're going to blow it up as big as anything.
That's a tough sports town, Philly.
Absolutely.
Nothing's
passionate. I like to use the word passionate.
Oh, man.
So I mean, it's just interesting to get the different perspective on the Ben Simmons thing because obviously it's a hot topic in Philadelphia. Whether you're a fan of any sport in Philadelphia, I mean, it's pretty much front page every single day.
Yeah, I would imagine
what's going on with him and all. So I appreciate you guys giving a little insight in that, and I love to get your insights. I still, in my back of my head, I still think Rich Paul's pulling some strings. Even though I've now had 3 people tell me, that are in the business, tell me no, it's more Ben Simmons, but I don't know. I just think somebody of Rich Paul's power, Ben's like, yo, get me out. I'll do whatever you say. And, and leave it at that. But
okay. No, I can see that angle. Yeah. I think that, some people, once they get to a certain level of power, of level of respect or whatever, things can get to their head. So I wouldn't be surprised if an agent at his level is, got his own vision in mind and he's trying to make things happen that way too,
Okay. Well, anyway, again, guys, thank you very much for coming on. This has been an awesome interview, awesome conversation. These are Vince, I got to get the names right, Vince Sapienza and Alex Malchaw, Pro Level Agencies, player reps. You can find the website, prolevelagents.com. You can find them both on Twitter. You can find Alex at where I got everything written down here somewhere. No, Vince is Alt FB Scout, and Vince, I had you written down here. I can't find it in my scribble here, but they're both on Twitter. I'll tag them. They're tagged in the show online. Make sure you check them out and check out Pro Level Agents. It's a great site and it's a great team and a great family. I love working with them. They got some great clients and they're doing some really great. They're getting everybody that they have under their wing is playing football somewhere. And if they're not, they're playing really soon somewhere. So make sure if you're an aspiring football player, you're trying to get that career going, check out these guys. I'm sure they'll rep you really well.
Thank you. Much appreciated. Thanks for having us on.
Thanks very much, guys, and I'll chat with you guys later. All right, have a good night or good day. I just did a show like 12 hours ago last night. I'm still stuck in my night mode here.
All right, have a good one.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
All right, there are my 2 guests, the agents from Pro Level Sports Agency. Great guests, great perspective. Now we're going to switch over. We're going to talk hockey. Oh, there he is. We're going to talk hockey. Hold on. Before you say a word, I got banners and stuff like that. Hold on. Got to do something here. There we go. We got our What's Up with the Flyers background. Let's see. Let's change the background here a little bit. Let's see. We'll put Trending in the AM back up there. All right. There we go. I need a producer to do that work for me while I'm talking on the air. My man Jason is back. He was with me last night for Trending for 4 Quarters. Back this morning, Trending in the AM for his weekly segment, What's Up with Flyers. Jason Voorhees at Mustang 3651. Host or co-host of Sports and Metal podcast and co-host of Drunk on Ice podcast. This guy's tapped in with the Flyers more than anything else. I know I just saw you 12 hours ago, Jason, but what's up? How you doing?
Dude, I'm barely awake. I feel like I was on the show all night. No, it was great
I'm
show.
right there
last
with you,
night.
man. Doing a night show, then getting up and doing a morning show, man, it really wears you out.
I'll tell you what, man, you're doing a great job, Phil. You really
I appreciate
are.
that.
And the two guys, I was listening, obviously backstage a little bit to their stories, and they are definitely a top-notch group. And I'm glad that you're kind of working with them. It's good to see someone trying to help.
There's a
other
lot
people.
of football outside of the NFL, and
Yeah.
pro level agents, they're doing their job at getting these guys to continue their career. And we brought up at the end of the interview, you got the Tyler Hennekes and the PJ Walkers who didn't get any chance in the NFL. They went and played in other leagues. Then they got a chance in the XFL. And now look at them. I know that's the extreme. They're starting quarterbacks in the NFL, but you could still get, they brought up other names of guys that are on practice squads and wide receivers and, have had chances. They started in Europe because they didn't get an NFL chance. They kept moving up the ranks. And these guys, I mean, it's a great family, a great team over there. And I've enjoyed interviewing them, Buddy Walters, their CEO, and all the different players on that agency. I mean, there's some great people, some great stories and stuff like that. So, and there's going to be more coming with the football journey there because, it's great conversation. It's something different that people don't talk about much.
Absolutely. I mean, it's not your everyday run-of-the-mill Philly sports talk. You know what I mean?
No.
Like, it's different, and that's
I like different. And I mean, you can't do different every single day, all day long. But you know what? It's still something that should be discussed. It's still something that should be talked about, and we're giving people a voice to have their voice heard and their story told.
Awesome, man. Awesome.
All right, well let's dive into the Flyers. Had you on last Friday. I know you've already bragged for like 6,000 times. When I had you on last Friday, you said the Flyers were going to beat the Hurricanes and then lose to the Dallas Stars. You were right, of course, and obviously. They also won 2 nights ago against the Calgary Flames, 2-1. So in the last week, they've gone 2-1. One of those wins coming against a very good Carolina Hurricanes team, and the Calgary Flames are also a very good team. So in the last week, have we learned anything new? Or anything changed with the Flyers we talked trends last night with the Eagles, trending wise with the Flyers?
The crazy thing is I don't know if we've learned anything new. I think kind of last week I hit on the fact that the Flyers are, missing that elite goal scorer.
Absolutely.
And if you look over their last 10 games, they've scored less than 2 goals a game. Now, why are they still successful? I mean, we got to be honest about it. If it weren't for Carter Hart right now, this team would be the doormat. Like, Carter Hart is literally winning games for the team, and that's great. Trust me, I love it. I said before.
I'm looking at their thing right now. They had 2 goals against Calgary, 2 goals against the Stars, 2 against Carolina, 0 against the Maple Leafs, 2 against the Capitals, 2 against the Penguins. They did score 3 against the Coyotes. You have to go back to when they beat the Oilers, where they scored more than 3 goals when they won 5-3, and that was a long time ago.
Yeah, 10 games, and
that's
that's my concern, Phil. Like, trust me, I really want to get excited, and you know me, I'm not a homer. I call it how it is. Like, that's
you're a realist.
We all have
you a
to kind of
realist.
do that. Doing this, being in, podcasting, and let's face it, there's some groups out there that are more homerist than others. But I'm a diehard fan, but I gotta say what I see. And my concern about this team is exactly what I've been saying. Like, they just can't put the puck in the net. I'm absolutely thrilled with Carter Hart's play. I mean, let's face it. Another, stellar game in net. Carter Hart through 10 games is 5-3-2. He's got a 2.19 goals against, which is like 13th in the league. I mean, there's some great goalies out there.
Absolutely.
But his .935 save percentage is 8th in the league, which is save percentage to me is actually usually the number 1 metric in my opinion. Goals against is a little bit kind of skewed sometimes because, you have overtime games and, shootouts and this and that. But to me, Carter Hart has been so far the player of the year for this team. And we said that coming in, that if this team's going to have any kind of success, it all starts and it begins and ends with Carter Hart. So for that part of the piece, I'm very happy. But, like I said, I'm a little concerned about, their lack of scoring. I do realize I'm a little also concerned about Ryan Ellis. Obviously, we saw the news that, Ryan Ellis came back for a short stint in, I believe it was Saturday's game, and then he went back out. He's now on long-term injury reserve. They're not really talking about the injury. And to me, that's kind of smart by Chuck Fletcher, because I think this is a guy that I hate to say it, but this is the kind of guy that sometimes, I've seen it where not just hockey, teams have made moves, got a guy that's injured and end up moving him again because, it just doesn't work out. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but my point is you never want to kind of put your cards on the table. So kudos to Fletcher for not, being open about the injury.
I got a question here from Drew here. Do you think they have to make a move now, like soon, instead of waiting? I'm not even sure when the trade deadline is in hockey, because right now they're not going to win a 7-game series in the playoffs or even get to the playoffs, in my opinion. I'll add to his question, averaging 2 goals a game. Do they have to make a move now? Do they need to wait and just see how it plays out in the next couple of weeks, month? Or do they need to make that move right away?
I mean, honestly, hockey's a marathon. It's not a sprint. So to me, I think you could still wait, because I think there is still time to kind of get this thing turned around and get back to how they were scoring in the beginning of the year. I mean, let's face it, the overtime goal, I mean, that was huge for Cam Atkinson. I mean,
Absolutely.
he's a guy that came out, first 5 games was like all over the ice. And then obviously he struggled, as far as putting the puck in the net. Scoring that goal is huge. To me, hockey's all about ups and downs. It's about confidence. A lot of times, and that's why they kind of, gave Oscar Lindblom a reset. Oscar Lindblom's a guy that I was, saying coming into the year, I thought was going to be an assist machine, like a guy that has all the talent. Obviously, he's went through a, insane ordeal, overcoming cancer. And to me, that's something that is going to take time, because obviously that took a lot of his energy out. But
absolutely,
to me this year, if you looked at Lindblom, it wasn't for lack of effort. Like he's an effort guy. It's just the puck's not going in the net. And I've seen this with, bigger names than Oscar Lindblom, where they struggle for like 20 games and they don't score, and you kind of need a reset. So I'm hoping that move will, kind of pay off, and Lindblom will come back refreshed, and, maybe he'll start, gelling with the line that he's on. But, obviously when in hockey, a lot of times these lines change, and they have to, because, coaching, they have to make adjustments, just like the NFL, like we talked about Sirianni, and, we've talked about all the Eagles coaching and how they've lacked adjustments. Obviously, over the last couple of weeks, they've turned it around. So hopefully, the same thing happens in hockey, whereas but hockey, there's more games. So, if you have a 5-game stretch where a line is just struggling, you kind of got to switch it up, because a lot of time, the longer you wait, it's not helping the situation. So you kind of hope that the little tweaks in the lineup will, get them back on the right page. So.
Okay. All right. Well, last week, you're right. I gave you a 2-game prediction last week. We predicted the Friday, Saturday game. You nailed it spot on. You got it 1-1. You picked the right games and stuff like that. The Flyers now have 4. I'm not sure when the next time you'll be on, next Friday, next Thursday. I'm not even sure if we're doing a show on Thanksgiving or not in the morning. But so they got tonight, they got Tampa at home, and they got Boston at home on Saturday. And then they go on the road and face Tampa and the Florida Panthers, back-to-back in Florida. I mean, it's a back-to-back, but which is always tough in hockey. But at least it's not much travel. Florida Panthers, Tampa Bay, same state. Shouldn't be that hard of a travel night there. But you got 4 games in the next 7 days, which is a lot of games in 7 days for hockey. How do you see the next 4 games playing out for the Flyers?
Ugh.
Tampa, Boston, Tampa, and Florida. That's a tough schedule.
You're talking Tampa and Florida, or upper echelon in the conference, and Boston is no pushover.
And it doesn't matter if Boston is a pushover or not. Boston Philly games are just always intense. There's always a I know they're not like we're not number one rivals against each other, but there is that ingrown rivalry there that always, makes them a tough game.
Well, listen, my heart wants me to say I would like them to go 2-2 in this 4 games. It's hard for me to see that with the way that they're playing. If they could come out to, against Tampa and put up a 5 spot, you know what I mean, and like kind of shock everybody and score some goals, that might help their confidence. That could change the whole way that I look at this.
Okay.
But I hate to say it, but I have them probably going 1-3.
Wow. Okay.
I think they win one of the Tampa games.
Yeah, it's tough to beat.
Florida. I tell you what,
tough to, when you're playing two teams or the same team 2 times in 3 games, it's almost like a back-to-back in baseball or a series in baseball. Yeah, it's tough to lose both of them, but.
Yeah, I mean, and Florida Panthers, man, I'm telling you, they're the team. I talked about on the Drunk on Ice debut show that they were my kind of sleeper team.
Okay.
Bobrovsky's back to playing like everyone thought Bobrovsky was washed. And the guy.
People thought he's washed multiple times, and every time people think he's washed, he seems to come back.
That's what I mean. Like, the guy, he still has it, and he's playing. He's in the top 5 right now.
I feel like Bobrovsky's been playing in the NHL for like 37 years now, but I bet you he's only like 29 years old because he started so early in his life, with the Flyers and stuff like that. So the guy's been around for a long time.
You're 100% right. I mean, it does feel that way.
Drew did have another question. Do you think it's time that they start experimenting with mixing the lines up a little bit, and maybe that helps bring the goals up? Especially it's still the beginning of the season, technically, like you said, in a marathon of a season.
Yeah, well, I like Drew's question. If you really looked at it, they kind of already did that. Okay. So JVR was on the top line now when he started off on the second line. So they have kind of already started that tweaking process. I think if this goal drought continues, then there's got to be some drastic changes, whether it's, and listen, I got to be honest with you. If you look at this team this year, Claude Giroux is playing actually really good hockey. So you can't really blame Giroux. He's playing good. And Couturier. Couturier and Giroux are 2 of your better players, and they're playing up to par. It's the other guys that are still struggling. Now, a guy like Travis Konechny, still very young, has a lot of talent, struggled last year. He's not getting the numbers on the scoreboard. He's not putting pucks in the net. But I will say that I have watched his play very closely because he's a guy that I'm always critical of every year. And I actually got to say, Travis Konechny's played pretty well. He's just not getting the the reward of for how he's playing. But he's a guy I actually might look to put Travis Konechny on the first line.
Okay,
because he has that scoring touch. He's just, like I said, he hasn't been able to, bury shots.
Sometimes you just need, like you said, hockey is a confidence thing, and you just need to see the puck go in one time. Then all of a sudden, the net gets big. It's kind of like that theory, like the net looks wide open every time you shoot. You don't even have to mix them up to the top line for the rest of the season. No. You just got to mix it up a little bit to get everybody out of their ruts and out of their droughts, and maybe it starts to turn it around. Yeah, I mean, I can't make a prediction whether they'll go 1-3, 2-2. I don't watch enough to know that, but I'm going to hold you to 1-3. When they go 0-4, I'm going to call you out on that.
That's okay. And when they go 4-0, we'll both be like, "What?
Yeah, what the hell happened there?"
Wait, what?
We'll be talking next week about how they're trending up, right? And don't pump the brakes. I'm using last night's keywords on that. All right, so so finally, real quick, wrap it up on Flyers. Are you Drew's saying 3-1. That's a bold prediction, Drew. If they're 3-1, you're on the next show for the What's Up Flyers segment.
Yeah, we'll have one.
Yeah, you're going to be on the What's Up Flyers segment if they go 3-1, guaranteed. How are you're feeling right now, going into the next 2 to 3 weeks of the Flyers season? Are you concerned, confident, or I think the word I want to say confused because you don't know what to think of this team?
Well, I'm going to use the term that I've been using all year. I'm cautiously optimistic. Yeah. I'm hopeful.
Trying to get you to say something else.
Wow.
No, it's okay. I knew you were going to answer it like that.
I'm hopeful for the team.
Hopeful.
I'm concerned about
Cautiously
their lack of
optimistic.
scoring.
Yeah, there we go. All right, real quick. Before we wrap this show up, tonight, Thursday Night Football, New England Patriots at Atlanta Falcons. Cordell Patterson, who was initially considered not playing, he seems to be trending. He might actually play tonight. Do you have any thoughts on the game or either team, the Patriots or the Falcons?
I like New England in the game. I think the Falcons have played better than their record, and Matt Ryan's actually surprisingly having a pretty good year with no weapons. I mean, if you think about it, he went from having Julio Jones, Calvin Ridley, the running back. Who was the running back they had 2 years?
Todd Gurley.
Yeah, Gurley. He had all these weapons.
Not Gurley. Gurley was with
no, it was Gurley.
Yeah, Gurley was there.
Yeah. So he went from having all these weapons to, basically Kyle Pitts is his only guy right now. I mean, Calvin Ridley might be out for the season. Julio's out. Well, Julio's out at his new team too. So
yeah,
unfortunately. But yeah, I think New England, man, I'll tell you what, they've surprised me. I was not big on the quarterback.
Mac Jones, yeah.
Mac Jones. And
I'm still not big. People are, because of the last 2 weeks, people are anointing Mac Jones.
I saw people posted pictures of his head was turned this way and they showed him from the back and they're like, it's Tom Brady 2.0. And I'm like,
stop.
Come on. Now, talk about pumping the brakes.
Yeah,
Let's
talk about pumping the brakes. That's pumping the brakes right there. I'm a little different on this game tonight because I don't buy the Mac Jones. I don't buy the Patriots. Patriots are a good team. They may make the playoffs. They'll be right around those wild card spots. But it's a Thursday night football game on the road, and the Patriots are a 6.5-point favorite. The home team on Thursday, I don't know the exact stat, but I do know the home team on Thursday Night Football always has a massive advantage. So at the very least, the Falcons cover the 6.5 points. And if Cordell Patterson plays and is even remotely healthy to play, I think the Falcons actually win the game. Just because Cordell Patterson is a weapon, and how it's taken so long for a team to finally utilize his strength, because the guy's been in the NFL for quite a few years now. And he's bounced around from multiple teams. I think it was with the Bears. I know he was with the Vikings, the Falcons. He's been on 4 or 5 different teams. Finally figured it out. I think the Falcons have a really good chance at winning this game because going on the road on Thursday Night Football, short week, it's a real, real tough challenge. I'd like someone to do a research for me and find out what that record is. Maybe I'll have that for tomorrow morning when I brag about me saying the Falcons are winning. I knew my stat there.
Well, I really like how you just kind of, hit on that, on the Cordell Patterson thing. And it makes me think, I have a question for you. And I think it would make for a good show in the future for you. Maybe I could be on it. Maybe we could have a couple people.
You're throwing yourself a little.
players that have, players in any sport that took, I don't know how to phrase the question, but
a long time
to become a great player, because he's a guy that if he could continue this for 5 more years now, playing how he is this year, that'd be oh my God, 5, because I think he's been in the league. You said 4, I think 5 years.
Yeah, I'm trying to look it up. I'm on ESPN's website right now, but I couldn't pull it up really quickly without risking closing out the screen here. Cordell Patterson, definitely, if he plays, I see the Falcons winning tonight. So we'll get into that tomorrow when we recap it and then finish, prepping for Eagles game and recapping tonight's Sixers and Flyers games and stuff like that. Got so much going on the show tomorrow. But tomorrow's leading topic on the show tomorrow morning, Trending the EM, will be Jason's favorite subject, Bryce Harper, the new reigning defending MVP of the MLB National League, because Bryce Harper will win the MVP tonight, right?
If he doesn't, I'll be pissed.
Yeah. I'll be surprised. I'm surprised that Zach Wheeler was so close in the Cy Young voting. I thought, he was going to be a lot further down the line or not quite as many votes. That was a really close vote with Burns there. And he almost won it. I think you take away, I said last night's show, or on one of the shows yesterday, I said if he had one more win in September, and then somebody else said if you just take out his worst start of the year, Zach Wheeler probably wins the NL Cy Young.
It's not even a question. Like to me, Zach Wheeler was the Cy Young up until that one game. He had a clunker, and I believe it was like
it was one of his last two starts. I forget which one it was.
Exactly, it was like the third week, I think, of September.
Unfortunately, voters have recency bias when they vote in all sports and all awards and all of life. Even politically, it's all recency biased voting. And unfortunately, Zach Wheeler struggled in 2 games in September. That last one was really bad, and he lost out on it. I mean, he obviously was the workhorse and the strongest pitcher in the NL all year long. But, recency bias wins out. Maybe if they make the playoffs, maybe. I heard somebody on Twitter say, blame Aaron Nola, because if Aaron Nola pitched a little bit better, maybe we make the playoffs. Maybe Zach Wheeler wins the award. I don't know. That's taking it too far. But tomorrow morning, we will open the show with a huge Bryce Harper MV3 celebration, I hope. Otherwise, I don't know what I'm going to talk about tomorrow. I'm just going to cry that Bryce Harper didn't win the MVP. I've already got my Bryce Harper T-shirt jersey ready to wear tomorrow.
I mean, I hope he wins. Like, obviously, everyone, we can all laugh about the tweet that I had, but like, I was never.
We all are laughing still.
Well, and that's fine, but I was never not a Bryce Harper fan like that, and that did get blown out. I talk about it, how you can sometimes put something out there and
let's put this blowout from the football game. Let's just add an N in there, blown out of proportions into that comment right there.
Oh, definitely. I mean, but honestly, in all honesty,
hey, you died on that hill though. You stuck to your guns on that. I
did, and I took it like a man, and I admitted I was wrong. Like, I went on Twitter and Facebook and every other social media and apologized. So the bottom line is, and I would apologize to Bryce in person if I could meet the guy. I mean, who wouldn't want to meet Bryce Harper?
You're just fishing to meet Bryce Harper now, aren't you? You're begging for somebody to introduce you to Bryce Harper. All right.
I would love to meet the guy. I mean, the guy is like. Say what you want and about the guy, but like the way that he plays the game is like, to me, he reminds me of like another guy that I loved in this town, Chase Utley. Just his heart, you could tell he cares about the game.
Absolutely.
And he studied. They've said Bryce Harper knows a lot about old school baseball too. Like he knows a lot about like the old players and the the people that have kind of made the game what it is. So kudos to him. I hope he wins. I really do. I kind of have a feeling that he is going to win. I think, a lot of people
announcing Mike Schmidt as the announcer of the award. I mean, kind of making everybody say that they think it's Bryce anyway. So, I mean, why would you have Mike Schmidt announcing it when it's not Bryce Harper? So, yeah. All right. Well, we got to wrap this show up for the day. I've got to get to work. Thank you all for tuning in again. This was a great episode, Trending in the AM. Hopefully, Jeremy feels better. Is back tomorrow morning. Wasn't feeling too well. Little under the weather. Again, another shout out to my boy Jax. He had to spend the night in the hospital last night. I know he wasn't happy, but I know you're my number one fan, but I'm one of your number one fans. I hope you're feeling better, brother. Hope you feel better today and you get home and play with all your toys and stuff. We'll be back tonight with DFS, no pun intended, Detroit Dave, a.k.a. Drew. Why he calls himself Dave on Twitter, but his real name is Drew, maybe we'll ask him and we'll find out tonight. But we'll be breaking down this week's DraftKings slate and all fantasy football content, 9 p.m. right here on DSM Media. Make sure you're following Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, and on YouTube. You got to get on YouTube. The only way I can hear your comments and see your comments and post them on the screen, answer your questions if you're subscribed and following and watching on YouTube. And as always, we are brought to you by Manscaped, the leader in men's grooming products. Manscaped.com. Use promo code TRENDING, 20% off and free shipping. That's Jason Voorhees at Mustang3651. He's got a great episode of Sports and Metal tonight. He's got an Ozzy tribute band, Ozzy impersonator. I don't know how you want to phrase it exactly, but a great guest on his show tonight with Aaron. So make sure you tune in. It's 8 o'clock tonight.
8 o'clock. And
they're giving away 4 sets of tickets to a concert.
4 total tickets. So,
4 total tickets to concerts being given away on his show. If you're a fan of Ozzy, if you're a fan of that kind of music, make sure you tune in because it's going to be a great show and they're going to have some free tickets to give away. So it's definitely something to check out and watch tonight at Sports and Metal. And I'm sure that's how you find it on YouTube and Facebook as well.
Absolutely.
Hey.
And then tomorrow, Drunk on Ice.
Tomorrow night, Drunk on Ice. I couldn't remember the exact date. So tomorrow night will be Drunk on Ice with Don Conway, another great Philadelphia podcaster, great guy. So make sure you check them out tomorrow. Hey, another great episode of Trending in the AM. We are almost wrapped up with week 3 of this morning show, and I haven't overslept yet. I'm very proud of that. So everybody have a great day, Everybody have a great weekend if I don't see you tomorrow. And hey, go Birds.